was all about the opportunity. I was on the Rochester police force for about 10 years. And you need to understand that the way higher level detective work happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s, was through private detective agencies. Local police departments, they were like, highly trained night watchmen. They were good at sort of policing, keeping order, checking the doors, the windows, making sure lights are on, that kind of thing. But there were a lot of crimes that just sort of reached beyond the local police department's capabilities to investigate. So take, for example, you've probably all heard of the Pinkerton Agency. They were still around when I went into business. Well, that was a big private detective firm. It's a good example of what happened. There were no national or state law enforcement agencies. So the Pinkertons made a ton of money working for these big companies, like the railroad companies, banks, mining companies, who were targets for the gangs you all heard about in the Old West growing up. So Butch Cassidy, Jesse James, those kinds of guys. And what would happen is the private detective firms would go do the investigation, track down the suspects, capture them, and then hand them off to the local law enforcement for prosecution. So that was the opportunity. I just looked at it, I said, well, I've been 10 years on the force, and I knew I was good at detective work because I was already getting calls, Chief Whaley, or Captain Whaley, Chief McDonald, they were getting calls from police departments around Western New York asking for me by name. So I said, well, I think I could make a living at this, and just wanted a higher level of detective work. So that's what we did. Plus I had all those kids. My wife Flo and I, we had 8 kids by the time I went into business. How are you going to support 8 kids on an RPD salary? It just, it was, I needed the money, all right? I needed the money. So I had some encouragement. Captain Whaley could see me kind of itching to do higher level work, so he encouraged me. I had a good friend, Tom O'Grady from Buffalo. He'd been a Buffalo police officer I met when we were both just gumshoes trying to chase down those mail theft guys. And he'd started his own business already. He was doing really well, and he said, Johnny, you gotta do this. This is the only way to go. So I set out on my own.